Hi, welcome to MacGyvering Cocktails. I'm Greta Harmon, Chief Coctologist here at Lawrenceville Distilling Company in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Today we're going to be making one of my all-time favorite whiskey drinks, the Sazerac. So the Sazerac is a variation of an old-fashioned but made with rye whiskey. And so since we're at MacGyvering Cocktails, I like to show you how I would use my professional bar tools to make the Sazerac at the bar or in my home. But since we're home, you'll probably have barwares that look a little bit more like this, measuring cups, measuring spoons, etc. Either way, we'll get the job done and get you boozed up. Let's get started. So Sazerac is traditionally made with either brandy or rye whiskey. So right now we have some bonded rye and some Pennsylvania rye made by our friends at Wiggle. It also uses a rinse of absinthe on the glass, a little bit of simple syrup, Peychaud bitters, which are different than Angostura bitters, and they are really essential for a Sazerac. And finally, it gets garnished with a lemon peel. Because this drink is served neat in a rocks glass, it's just served chilled, you want to make sure that you get your glasses nice and chilled before you even get started. I've had some ice resting in these glasses to kind of get them going. You could also, if you know you're going to make drinks that are going to be served neat or up, you can go ahead and throw those in the freezer ahead of time to make sure they get nice and chilled. So, as I said, a Sazerac is a variation of an old-fashioned. So we're going to start with 2 ounces of rye whiskey. So the difference between rye and bourbon is that bourbon is typically made with, has to be made, with 51% corn in the mash. Rye is made with about 51% rye in the mash. So it has a nice spicier flavor. So 4 tablespoons is equal to 2 ounces for those of you making these at home. So we've got our Pennsylvania rye from Wiggle. And if you've got some bonded rye, this Old Overholt is quite delicious as well. So like I said, 2 ounces. And that's going to be this big side of the Japanese style jigger. It should be 2 ounces. Some of them are sneaky and they're only 1.5 ounces. So just double check before you get started. Then we have simple syrup. And I like to use about a 1/2 ounce, maybe a 1/4 ounce up to a 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, depending on how you like it. But I do just under a 1/2 ounce. Now, if you can see, there's a little line in there where it marks the 1/2 ounce. And so I go just underneath that. So 1/2 ounce is 1 tablespoon. So we'll go just under that. Now, there's a lot of different recipes for a Sazerac. Some range in dashes of Angostura from like 3 dashes. I really like a lot of dashes of Peychaud bitters in my Sazerac, so I like to do 9. And you really want to get that nice like jerking motion in there. Now, rosemary, I told you it's Peychaud bitters, not Angostura. My co-host woke up from her nap. So we're doing 9 dashes of Peychaud bitters in our Sazeracs. Now you can do less. I just really like a lot of it. And so then we're gonna add our ice. And this is a stirred drink. So you're using your stirring vessel, which can either be a stir glass or a pickle jar. It could even be a measuring cup. Whatever you have at home will honestly do. You want to make sure you have enough ice in there so that all the components of your drink are touching the ice as you stir to make sure that it gets diluted and cold enough. whatever you're doing to dilute, to stir, to shake your cocktail, the ideal dilution really is about 20%. So whenever you're making these, you want about 20% of your volume to be water, really, and to be cold, cold, cold. So here, we'll just put this lid back on, and we're just gonna roll this around. You don't wanna shake it, you just kinda wanna stir it by rolling it, giving it this gentle mixture. And as we talked about before in our old-fashioned video, the difference between stirring and shaking a cocktail is the difference between being in a dance club and a mosh pit. In a dance club, you're kind of like bumping into each other a little bit, and in a mosh pit, you're just getting beat up. And you can tell that that's getting nice and cold by the condensation and the chill on the outside of the glass. All right, so now that those have been stirred, we're gonna discard our ice. So now you have a really nice cold glass. So it gets a rinse of absinthe on the glass. You can just pour it in there and just swirl it around a little bit. Or my pro tip is to have a little spray bottle that I fill absinthe in so you can spray your glasses. So we're gonna spray, and I like to use 9 sprays of absinthe because I really like that flavor. And I like to spin it while spraying it to make sure that it all gets in there nicely. An even coat. And if you don't have that, you can just throw in just a little bit of absinthe and kind of give it a little rotation. Try to get that whole interior of your glass coated with the absinthe. It helps with the aromatics and the flavor. All right, so this will get strained. It's like we said, this gets served neat. It gets a really nice red flavor or color. And then to strain it in your pickle jar, you can just use the lid to catch the ice. It's got the really great red color from the Peychaud's bitters. Finally, it gets a lemon peel for the garnish. So you want to peel it butt to butt, and you want to get a nice thick peel with that white rind on there and express it over the glass. So you get those nice oils. Rub the top of the glass to get that flavor on there. And then what I also like to do is cut a slit in the middle of the peel, because then it sits nicely on your glass, and that way it's not just floating around in your drink. You can actually taste it and smell it. And now you're ready to enjoy your Sazerac. Cheers.